Bless you. Right behind you. You know where he's getting buried at? You know where he's getting buried at? Well, I know where his grandparents are. His mom, dad, is that where he's getting buried? About a big birthday. This is the grave site, call it.
She might go through another department.
What do you mean?
Well, this is in seven
I'd like to welcome you to the memorial
sections.
service of Arthur Weldon Jr., or Watt, or Weldon, or Dad, or Grandpa, or however you choose to remember him today. And the first thing we're going to do to start off this service is we're going to have a video of remembering Dad. Welcome to the memorial service of Watt Eaton. My dad was born to Ruth Hart and to Arthur Weldon Eaton Sr., or Dewey, in Clarkston, Washington, on August 30, 1934. But he grew up in the Colton, Beloit area. My dad was a hard-working man. He was always outside, always busy, and always getting his hands dirty, plus his front. He grew up in a farm family. His grandpa farmed, his dad farmed, and he and his brothers farmed. He learned how to fix equipment out of necessity because he said his dad didn't know how. And if you farm, you're guaranteed one thing: your equipment will break down at the very worst possible moment. Dad was a treasure trove of information. He knew how to do so many things. He knew how to build and fix motors of many types of cars and tractors. He was able to pass that information on to Haas. From the time Haas could practically walk, he was out with Dad. And that part of Dad will live on in him, and through many of you who were benefactors of his expertise, whether it be a classic car or a vintage tractor. And I hope when you're working on those type of projects, I hope you'll pause and just think of him in those moments. Dad was also a rancher. We had cows and pigs. He would summer pasture in Clarkia, Idaho, and winter down on his Lewiston property. Butchering was a yearly event, and we had the best steaks. I really took for granted the great meat we had until he didn't butcher any longer. We didn't have a lot of money, but we always had beef. I even had steak for breakfast some mornings. I remember one morning my teacher asked me what I had for breakfast, and I was too embarrassed to tell her I had steak because I knew that that wasn't normal and not everybody had steak for breakfast. So I wasn't about to tell her. And my dad thought that was the funniest thing that made me so embarrassed. Farming was a hard life though. So in the early 80s, Dad decided to undergo a career change and he started building a mobile home park. I'm not sure how he talked my mom into it, but he did. And with the help of Bob Curry, they put in 5 spaces. The first lady who moved in needed a spot for her trailer, and I don't believe she had water or electricity, but she really didn't care because she was just so happy that she found a spot to move it into. He slowly expanded the court until he had over 60 spots. He was so proud of the court and what he had built, and that he would have a more stable income than any that he had had before. Dad also built his house. Now, it took him 12 years to build it, which did not make my mother very happy, but he did it. He paid for it as he went, and he did almost all of the work on his own, and we moved into it when I was 15. Dad had a story for us all. Now, my story was, he was babysitting me and on the phone, and I got into the shampoo and I ate it, and I pooped my pants. He thought that was hilarious. I have to say though, maybe he wasn't the most responsible babysitter, but he did have to give me a bath, so maybe he did suffer the consequences of his actions. The other story he liked to tell about me was that he said he danced around the living room and he would have me in his arms as a baby, and I had long ringlet curls, and he said he would dance around and bounce me around and my little ringlet curls would just bounce around, and he thought that was so precious. But my story about my dad is him teaching me how to drive a stick shift, which was the car that he bought me, a 71 Ford Pinto. You know, the ones that explode if you get rear-ended? That was the car he got. And he took me out on our gravel driveway, which was pretty steep, and he told me to stop, and he wanted me to take off on the hill. Well, as you can probably all guess, I killed it repeatedly. I was crying, I was mad, and I said I'm never going to be able to learn how to drive, and I'm never going to make it up this hill. Well, he thought it was funny, and he just decided to get out of the car, and he said, I'll see you back at the house. Well, I couldn't believe he left me there, and I don't know if I kept trying or if I just tried one more time, but all I know is I peeled out and I drew gravel everywhere, but I made it up that hill, and it was probably the best lesson he ever forced me to learn. Well, that and checking my oil, because I will eternally have his voice in my head telling me to check it, and I do, just for the record. My dad also loved to dance. He and Mom danced a lot, and they were very good at it. He had rhythm. They jitterbugged. Now, he couldn't sing to save his life, he couldn't float in a pool, but he could dance, and he loved it. He was a lifetime member of the Elks, and every year they had a father-daughter and a father-son banquet. We got all dressed up, we had a fancy dinner, I got a Shirley Temple, and we would dance. I wasn't great, but I gave it my best shot. Haas was 11 months old at his first banquet, and you'll see a picture of that in the slideshow. I think, though, Dad's favorite job was being a grandpa. He loved babies. Amanda was his first local granddaughter, followed by Abby and then Naomi. He loved holding them, and they would nap on his chest while he napped in his chair. He was not too old to get on the floor and let them crawl all over him or play whatever they were playing. He even got covered from head to toe with stickers. He went to their concerts and swimming lessons. He gave driving lessons and went on walks. Grandpa was game for all the things that Grandma was too scared to let you do. Dad always wanted to restore an old car to have in the Crankers Club. So in 2004, Haas completed a restoration on a Model T. The process took 5 years. It was a huge labor of love. Dad did a lot of the mechanical restoring, and he loved being part of the project, and he thought Haas did a beautiful job. He would brag about it to everyone. He even got to be in the Eaton County Parade. It was definitely a bucket list item for him. After my mom passed away, I made a commitment to come every month to check in on Dad. I mostly wanted him to have company and to make sure he was doing okay health-wise. I'd do some cooking and cleaning and help in whatever way he needed me to. But it wasn't long before he was having health issues. Immediately he had kidney stones, then gangrene, and he lost his big toe, blood clots, and more kidney stones. And as these events arose, Haas and I had to step into more of the roles he was doing until we were doing them all. Growing up, Dad was gone a lot. We didn't spend time together, but his last 6 years we did, and I'm thankful for that time and that I could be there for him. I would really love to have one last conversation with him. At this time, I'd like to do some thank yous. I'd like to thank Carol. Carol saw us through so many of his last months of doctor appointments and hospital visits and grocery shopping and just popping in to do a little of this and that. She was a very good friend for Dad, and she did a lot of very hard jobs in his last months of his life. And she knows the difficulty that she went through, and she just did it without complaint. She just being now 9 hours away, it was very difficult. I couldn't be there all the time, but I knew if I couldn't be there, Carol was going to be there, and she did. She just was always there, and I could rely on her to be there to get him through these appointments if I wasn't going to be, and I just really appreciate you, Carol. Thank you for doing that for me and for him. Thank you to Cheryl. Also, she saw Dad through another time of health crisis where she also did doctor appointments and came in twice a day and helped him with meds and food. He wasn't always the nicest to her, but she still came and she did the job, and she was a good friend to me and a good neighbor, and we just really appreciate that too, Cheryl, that you were there for him. Thank you to Dan. Dan got a call saying, Dan, can you come spend the night with him? A couple of nights before he went into the hospital. And Dan said, I'll be there. I'll be right there. Probably some of the hardest nights for my dad at the end, and probably some of the hardest nights that Dan's ever gone through also. They were just tough. So many reasons why they were tough, but they just were. But Dan didn't even hesitate. He just said, I'll be there. And you know what? That's just what friends do, and he was that type of friend. And we just owe him a lot for him stepping in at that moment to do that for us. Thank you to Dennis. Thank you for making Dad's dreams come true with his projects, being his work on the gravel pit, other things also, that you're his partner in crime. You were a good friend to him. He enjoyed spending time with you. That time gave him new purpose and a reason to get up in the morning. Probably the best time of help that he had during my 6 years of being with him. And it was just a really good time in his life. And I just want to thank you for giving that to him. Justin, thank you so much for taking him on 2 vacations. That's quite an undertaking. It means pushing him around in a wheelchair and just dealing with bathroom issues and getting him, in and out of a car. And he did it 2 times. Places that he wanted to see one last time. So thank you for making that possible for him, Justin. I'd like to thank Warren. Warren would call him up and just say, hey, you want to go to Orfino with me today? So many of those type of trips, just you got to stay in the car, see scenery, get to visit with Warren, and get to go out to lunch. Kentucky Fried Chicken if he had his choice, but sometimes other places. It was a good time. It was very good for him to get out of the house, see something else, not be in his chair. Thank you for giving him those opportunities to do that and spend time with you, Warren. He was always impressed that you did I Made the Grade in your 80s, and as we all should be impressed. You are a good friend to him. Thank you. And thank you to Tom. I know just in the last month or so you came to visit and took him to, I think, his last tractor event. He was very excited about that. You guys had some good adventures together, and he missed you when he moved, and I'm just so thankful he got to do that one last time with you. Thank you to all of you who came to visit him at his home and at Life Care. He had a lot of visitors there, and that meant a lot to him that you all came to see him. I know some of you did not get to see him awake or lucid. I'm so sorry that that was the case, but many of you did, and I'm glad that you got that opportunity to do that. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but I think it takes a village at the other end of your life too. And he had that village, and you all got to be part of that village. And he was so lucky to have you. And you can feel good knowing that. I would sit for hours at Life Care, and I would never see another visitor. But he had so many. Dad was loved, and we could see it and feel it during his time here on earth. And I just want to thank you all for loving him so very much. Thank you. At this time, we'll have a video of Wad through the years.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. And it's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that are dried upon the line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my mind. It keeps you in urges along my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on their columns now that bind me. Or something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgetting when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're moving on the back road by the rivers of my memory, and for hours you're watching the road. always come between us. And some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned when I was gone. I still might blame the silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a burning, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rusting in a cold towel and a dirty hat full of blows across my face. Through cupped hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're awaking from the back roads by the rivers of my memory, never smiling, never gentle on my mind. I'll go through my brain, loving you, loving you. I give all I say, loving you, loving you. And true, I never give, even then, it won't end. I don't care if the sun don't shine. I don't care if the bells don't chime. Just as long as you love me. I don't care if the tops don't spin. I don't care if the gins don't gin. Just as long as you love me. So darling, let it rain, let it snow, let the cold north wind blow. Just as long as you love me. North or south, east or west, you know I would stand the test. almost overnight. Who once was a country girl is now a socialite. We're proud for you, but when you're through and see some common ground, oh, we miss you on the old side of town. We still drink cokes and tell jokes and roll and splits and stripes. Country music still plays on the jukebox every night. Society is not for me, but I can still be found. Oh, we miss you on the old side of town. RSVP is not for me, and black tie is not my style. I thought you'd like to know you ain't been here for a while. We read about your tour de force, we're glad you get around, but we miss you on the old side of town.
At this time, I just have to say, aren't those fun? I've seen him on those old pictures. We're going to have a time of sharing a favorite memory, but we're going to start with his youngest granddaughter, Naomi, and then we'll be passing the mic. So you might be thinking if you have a memory out there you'd like to share, but we're going to start with Naomi, and she's going to come up to the front. But after that, I'll come to you.
This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, so bear with me. We had a wonderful grandpa, one who never really grew old. His smile was made of sunshine, and his heart was made of gold. His eyes, I'm sorry. His eyes were the brightest shining stars, and his cheeks bare roses you see. We had a wonderful grandpa, and that's the way it will always be. But take heed because he's still keeping an eye on all of us, so make sure he will like what you see. The circle of life is beautiful. When we reach adulthood, we are able to see our grandchildren more fully. As a person with a lifetime of his own life experiences, hopes, and dreams, we are able to see him not just as a grandpa, but as a friend. Growing up, it was so important for me to understand what my dad and grandpa were always talking about. What is an engine and why wouldn't it crank? What do you mean the pulley belt snapped and it's a pain to replace? The parts discontinued, but someone you know has a good enough base sitting out in their field, a little elbow grease will fix it. It wouldn't be until I started working for a car dealership in the service department that I finally started to understand one of my grandpa's favorite hobbies. I never realized how special it was to be able to sit down and have a conversation about engines with him and watch his eyes light up as he explained his preference of a carbureted engine, and I was able to calculate how the new generation favorite projected. The conversations were long, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. Over time, the shop becomes cluttered, projects are done, new ones start, but that's just what made Grandpa special. He always had an idea for something new. Maybe not always a good spot to put this new item, but that never stopped him from dreaming. Grandpas give us courage. If you're a family, a close friend, or if you were just someone willing to listen, I'm sure you've heard the timeless tale of Noe being stuck on the diving board during swimming lessons. Eventually, she would jump off the board and into the water, and after lessons were over, Grandpa would look at her and say, "Noe, what took you so long?" And she would reply, "I couldn't make up my mind." Little would he know, seeing him watching me would give me the courage courage to jump when all the other kids were afraid of the water and left the word crying. Seeing him light up was all I ever cared about. And maybe one time, I took that a little too far, which steers us to our next story. Naomi was being bullied at preschool, and so she beat her bully up. After being put in the front office in timeout, she would puff out her chest proudly and say to her teachers, "I don't care, my grandpa's coming to get me." I could stand here for the better part of the day and reminisce about all the stories he was either a part of or he told. And for those who knew Grandpa, you understood how long these stories could be. But no matter how many times Grandpa would tell these stories, seeing him laugh and reminisce would never grow old. And to me, that just meant he was proud, and that means more than he'll ever know. Grandpa was a family man. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for his family. Need a ride? He's there. Need assistance with a project? He's there. Need one of the best world's grandpa hugs? He's there. Soccer games, band concerts, birthdays? He's there. I got to spend a good amount of time with him these last few years. We had lunch and dinner dates on the occasion. We spent every holiday and birthday together. He would never stop trying to check in and be a part of my life, and I will always be grateful for that. He truly was the best man I ever knew. Grandpas give so much love. Between the laughs, the tears, the hugs, I never felt more loved by anyone than him. In our younger days, Grandpa would walk me to his horse belly, and Grandma Carlene would fill my arms with more apples than I could carry. We would stop by the swing set on the way to the house, and Grandpa would push me. And I would holler, "Higher, Grandpa, higher," until my eyes would get wide, and he knew he hit the perfect height. Quality time was his love language. I appreciate everyone attending today's service. Grandpa Juan made it clear that the presence of his family and friends was more than enough to keep him going. He didn't have the drive to succeed like he did so far in life. Dad and Aunt Shelley, I want you to know how much Grandpa loves both of you. Throughout my entire life, I've grown up hearing stories about you both, and that includes the accomplishments you achieved that make Grandpa so proud. You both deserve more credit for helping him live such a successful and happy life in the end. He wouldn't have been able to stay at home as long as he did and run his business if he didn't have either of you. And special thanks to the friends along the way that helped, Dennis and Carol, and many more. I would just want everyone to know that if you're sitting here today, you made a difference in his life for the better. All I have left to say is that I love you forever and always, Grandpa. Thank you.
Do you have somebody else that would like to share a memory? Just raise your hand. Nobody else?
I had the pleasure of meeting Lon back in like 1993 when I was a meter reader. And they had several meters on the farm, and I'd see him up at the courthouse, and he always loved to talk to me. And we'd have some of the best chats about everything ranching and whatever he was doing, his newest and latest projects. And anyway, a couple of years later, I ended up wanting to run a trailer court, or a trailer court. And his mom's like, you know, you don't want that trailer. If you got kids, it's that steep hill. And I said, kids? No, I don't have kids. I just wanted, the trailer. And anyway, I ended up meeting Haas, and we got married and had this beautiful baby. And he was such a great grandpa. I mean, to all his grandkids, and having family really meant a lot to him. And we shared so many fun stories. So he just will always remain that special something in my life.
Anyone else? I'll
just tell one more story. A lady that lives in the port was telling me that, and she couldn't be here today, that, there was a bad snowstorm in Lewiston, and, the bus wasn't home, and it's always there by a certain time of day, and it was not there, and she was very concerned. And Dad was, over at the port at that time, and she told him, like, the kids aren't here, the bus isn't here, I don't know what's happening, and he said, go home and stay home, I'll go see if I can find the bus. Well, the bus had broken down on Hatway Road, and, he went and got her kids and brought them home. She said before she knew it, there came Wad with her kids. I don't know who would release her kids to this great man, but he came home with her kids, and she just said that really meant a lot to her. And she just said that he was a very generous man, and that's how she would like to remember him. And I feel like probably a lot of people have those kind of stories. But is there anybody else who'd like to share?
I'm one of those Wawali rats that he grew up with, around, he's older than I, even though, not like that, anyway. He has, two brothers, and they were kind of a threesome in all kinds of ways, mischief and whatnot. We were next door neighbors, actually, Wawali. And so it got a lot of memories. One of the things that Shelley talked about was the beef. And my husband and I, we bought a lot of cattle for beef steaks from Watt and his family. And they were really, really good. I think it was Charlie. Is that right?
I think we butchered Holsteins, that's what I remember.
Okay. We got some Charlie, somebody too, but anyway, we had a lot of memories with them. And I remember also the Wawali Road at that time was gravel. And I remember seeing their vehicles in the canyon. They would go off the road many different times. So anyway, those are some of the memories that I have. Thank you.
You want to? Okay. I totally understand.
Talking about all the steak and the beef and everything, like one memory, I had the pleasure of meeting Watts with my sister in the house with them together, usually just around holiday times, you know? My dad made we cooked up some steaks and stuff for her, I don't know if it was Thanksgiving, Christmas time, dinner, or whatever, but I just remember Watts saying, why are you guys ruining that steak? That's sauce, you know? That's one memory. It's like after hearing about the steak for breakfast and all that, it's like, why are you guys ruining that perfectly good steak with that sauce? And that's one memory that's gonna stick with me forever.
You didn't need sauce on his, you didn't need it.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, my dad was in the Korean War, and, so he gets military honors today. So at this time, we will have the presentation of the flag.
Ah!